It's not rocket science. The hardest part about football is just keeping people calm.
Do not fucking test me! Enough for the fucking moaning!
Just hard work. A lot of work. And making sure everybody does that.
Last time I talked about your attitude, it's fucking life or death!
I don't see the game in any other way than scoring goals.
Bayern Munich have started the Club World Cup in style. Bayern Munich win 10-0.
Bayern Munich's most important signing wasn't Harry Kane. It wasn't a superstar winger. It was a crazy Belgian manager who doesn't give a damn about playing it safe. Vincent Kompany turned Bayern into Europe's most aggressive football experiment. High risk, high reward, no breaks. Here is how Vincent Kompany made Bayern great again. Bayern Munich are probably the only club in the world where even decline still sits higher than most teams' peaks. That's the standard they've built over decades. But make no mistake, the past 2 seasons were their worst in recent memory. In 2021, Bayern said goodbye to one of the greatest footballing minds of the modern era, Hansi Flick. In his place came an exciting tactician. On paper, Nagelsmann's Bayern looked elite. A 71.4% win rate, 1 Bundesliga title, 2 German Super Cups. By any normal standard, that's success. But Bayern Munich don't operate on normal standards, because beneath the numbers, something felt off. Nagelsmann was eventually shown the door, and just a year later, so was Thomas Tuchel. By the end of 2023-24 season, Bayern had reached a point that would have been unthinkable a decade earlier. While they were winning games and trophies domestically, something fundamental was missing.
But it's like, this isn't Bayern. This isn't what they do.
Ralf Rangnick has turned down the opportunity to become the new head coach of Bayern Munich. Very interesting, really, isn't it? Because Bayern also were associated with Nagelsmann before as well. Roberto De Zerbi, his name's been put in there as well.
Xabi Alonso,
of course, who turned them down.
For years after Hansi Flick, Bayern didn't feel like Bayern anymore. They were powerful, but predictable, successful, but uninspiring. Respected locally, yet slowly losing their aura on the European stage. Managers came and went, each arrived with ideas. None left a lasting imprint. There was no playing style bold enough to bend Europe to its will. The squad aged. Short-term fixes replaced long-term vision. Every manager tried to solve the present, but no one was rebuilding the future. On paper, Bayern still looked attractive, but the rest of Europe could see the warning signs. And then something truly unthinkable began to happen. Players stopped choosing Bayern, not just foreign stars, even German talents like Florian Wirtz no longer aspired to go to the biggest club in Germany. But it wasn't just players, even coaches rejected them, with the most famous case being Xabi Alonso. For the first time in decades, Bayern Munich were no longer the automatic destination. They were still a giant, but a sleeping one. But in the summer of 2024, Bayern Munich did something almost unthinkable. They handed the most powerful club in Germany to a manager who had just been relegated with Burnley. So why did Bayern do that? What did they see that the rest of Europe didn't? And more importantly, how did Vincent Kompany turn a static giant into the most ruthless team in the world? Most people think they already know Vincent Kompany. They remember the goals, the tackles. They remember the man who lifted the Premier League trophies with Manchester City. But that's only half the story. The truth is, Vincent Kompany was never just a centre-back. From the moment he stepped onto a football pitch, he was obsessed with control. Even as a player, Kompany didn't defend by reacting. He defended by anticipating. He stepped out of the line when others dropped. He played on the front foot in a position designed for caution. You could see that his IQ of the game was on a different level. And that way of thinking didn't come from nowhere. Kompany grew up in Belgium, a footballing culture shaped by ideas, not tradition. A place where players were encouraged to understand the game, not just survive in it. By the time he arrived at Manchester City, he wasn't just learning under managers, he was studying them. Mark Hughes, Mancini, Pellegrini, and then, most importantly, Pep Guardiola. Under Pep, Kompany became a different monster. He carefully absorbed the game entirely. He learned why lines matter, why spacing dictates dominance, why pressing isn't about effort but coordination. Guardiola once said that Kompany was one of the smartest players he had ever coached, and that intelligence didn't disappear even when the injuries started piling up. If anything, it sharpened it, because while he knew his body slowly betrayed him, his understanding of the game went deeper so that he could find better ways to be effective for the team. In 2019, when his contract expired after 11 years at City, Kompany returned to Anderlecht as player manager. A year later, he announced his retirement from professional football and became the first team manager. The project was chaotic, results were inconsistent, but even then, what stood out wasn't the table position of the team. It was the idea of how he made them play, even when it cost them. Kompany wasn't interested in survival football, he was interested in identity, and identity always comes before results. But ideas alone don't make teams ruthless, execution does, and that's where Kompany's Bayern story truly begins. After 2 years in Brussels, Kompany left to take over Burnley in the Championship, guiding them to immediate promotion as they also won the title in impressive style. And although his team struggled badly in the Premier League, none of these mattered to Bayern, who saw what Kompany offered Germany's most successful club is something shockingly dominant. So how exactly does Kompany's chaotic tactic work? And more importantly, how did it actually turn Bayern into a menace, at home and in Europe? Vincent Kompany's philosophy is shockingly simple: attack first, press constantly, and if the opponent scores, score 2 more. Before Kompany, Bayern has always been an attacking team, but there was a method to it. It was above all cautious, controlled, and planned. Under Kompany, however, they play with a level of attacking freedom that makes even fearless defenders look frozen. And the craziest part, he refuses to change, no matter the risk. If you watch Bayern this season, you've probably noticed something clear almost instantly. They don't just attack, they overwhelm their opponent. They don't sit deep, they press before they defend. When most teams lose the ball, they retreat, not Bayern. They swarm their opponent's box in a way that looks reckless, but it isn't. It's actually intentional. This is football designed to suffocate the opponent's thinking and force mistakes. And it starts with something most managers fear: a high defensive line. Simply put, Bayern's entire system is predicated on their ability to start high up the pitch. And with the players they've got, this is perhaps the simplest part of this tactic. But it's not just about what they do in defense. When Bayern reaches the final third, their shape becomes ridiculous. 2-4-4 or even 2-2-6. They stretch the pitch with 6 attackers, 2 pivots, and 2 centre-backs on the halfway line. It looks reckless, but in reality it isn't, because the distances between players are so tight that if Bayern lose the ball, they win it back in 2 seconds. Kind of like Klopp's heavy metal style of football. This is why Bayern spends entire halves playing inside the opponent's box. Their structure traps you, literally, inside your own penalty area. But here's the thing. Kompany didn't copy Guardiola. He didn't revive Flick's verticality. He didn't mimic Nagelsmann's pressing. He fused all 3, and then he added his own twist. Freedom with purpose. Every player can move, as long as the structure remains intact. Freedom with rules. And this is why their numbers don't make sense. When Bayern play, their defense doesn't sit back near halfway. It lives there. Players are daring opponents to go over them, to play long, to test their space, and when that space opens, Bayern don't collapse, they explode. Take Bayern's incredible away win at PSG, a match where Bayern didn't sit back after taking the lead. Despite being a man down, Kompany's team pressed, they controlled, they pulled defenders out of position, forcing openings and creating opportunities. That night, Kompany's men dictated the game instead of reacting to it. Or look at their opener in the Champions League against Chelsea. Bayern didn't defend in a traditional sense. They attacked with wave after wave and finished 3-1 with decisive precision, led by Kane's movement and clinical finishing. This isn't possession for safety, this is possession for punishment. But it's not just winning. Bayern under Kompany are scoring goals at an insane rate because of this system. This season, they have scored over 100 goals in all competitions. At one stage this season, they were averaging roughly 4.5 goals per game in the Bundesliga and 3.7 across all competitions, a mark almost unheard of at this level, even breaking some early goal-scoring records. Harry Kane alone has been a nightmare for defenders. We knew this man was good, but Kompany has actually transformed Kane's role and he is scoring at an even ridiculous rate despite that change. At the beginning of this season, Bayern set a European record with 14 straight victories across all competitions, a run no other club in Europe's top 5 leagues has ever matched, and even went 18 games unbeaten. Kompany's Bayern don't wait for chances, they force them. Opposition defenders are pulled forward or out wide. Kane drops deep to receive. Michael Olise drifts into half spaces. Luis Diaz attacks pace behind the defense with pace and aggression. Leonard Call accelerates play with his creativity and Messi-esque movement, giving Bayern structure even when their shape looks unorthodox. That's not luck, that's a philosophy. That's Kompany saying, I don't give a damn about defense, I give a damn about dominance. But a system can only take you so far. So what is Bayern's terrifying secret that makes the system function so well? Bayern's real secret isn't the shape, it isn't the press, it isn't even the courage to play this way. It's this. They have the exact players needed to make Vincent Kompany's madness feel inevitable. Let's start with the obvious one, Harry Kane, the striker who plays like a midfield general. We all know Harry Kane is elite, but what makes him perfect for Kompany's system isn't just his finishing, it's his intelligence. Kane doesn't live on the last line, he drops into the space between midfield and attack, and every time he does, centre-backs follow him, and space opens. Kane becomes the reference point. He slows chaos when Bayern need control. He accelerates it when the system smells blood. But if Kane is balance, Luis Diaz is disturbance. Diaz turns half spaces into highways. He forces defensive lines backwards just by existing. But Diaz isn't the only nightmare, because on the other side, where Diaz is fire, Olise moves like silk. Olise gives Bayern something just as dangerous as speed, control, and that contrast is deadly. Together, Diaz and Olise make Kompany's wide structure possible. This is how Bayern turn a risky 2-2-6 into a weapon. But every system needs a brain, and in this Bayern team, there are two, Kimmich and Pavlovic. Joshua Kimmich controls rhythm. He dictates where pressure flows. Beside him, Pavlovic provides the structure. He protects the shape, closes passing lanes, and shows Bayern's attack never disconnects from its defense. Together, they make sure Kompany's chaos doesn't collapse into disorder. And then there is the backline. Upamecano, Jonathan Tah, Stanisic, Leimer, and Manuel Neuer, who honestly needs no explanation. Individually, they're good. Collectively, they are terrifying. But here's the craziest part of all. Bayern aren't even at full strength. Alphonso Davies is not fully fit, and Musiala is yet to find his best form, which means this version of Bayern, it still isn't a finished product. But is this sustainable? This season, Bayern are currently 7 points clear off the league table and have comfortably qualified to the next round in the UEFA Champions League. On the face of it, it looks like Bayern should be untouchable, but as we clearly saw against Arsenal, they are not. If anything, that game exposed a flaw which now begs the question, is this style of football enough to conquer Europe? Systems built on aggression don't fail quietly, they fail loudly, and with Kompany's Bayern living on the edge by design, we have already seen glimpses of it, like this goal here, or even this moment where Bayern looked vulnerable in transition. Europe is unforgiving. The Champions League doesn't care about philosophies, it punishes mistakes. Over 2 legs, against elite opponents, with no margin for error. This is where Kompany's Bayern will truly be judged, not by how many goals they score in a month, but by how they respond when the chaos turns against them. So now the real question isn't, can Bayern dominate? We already know they can. The real question is this: when the press fails, when legs get tired, when Europe adapts, will Kompany adapt too? or will he stay true to a philosophy that refuses compromise? Do let us know what you think in the comments. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification button because in the next video, we will dive into another tactical evolution. And trust me, you wouldn't want to miss how this story unfolds.